The morning sun shone brightly over the quiet streets of Elmwood. It was a small town, the kind where neighbors knew each other's names, where the sound of children playing could be heard from one end of the street to the other, and where every lawn was neatly trimmed. On this particular day, one house on Willow Lane stood out more than any other. The house was filled with flowers, decorations, and the soft hum of celebration. Inside, Jamal and Nina were busy preparing for the most important day of their lives. It was their wedding day, a day they had been waiting for with joy and excitement. Jamal adjusted his tie in the mirror, smoothing out the wrinkles of his navy suit. Beneath the suit, he wore his police uniform, a badge tucked carefully inside his jacket. He had been an officer for years, serving his community with dedication. Today, however, he wore it differently. It was a personal day, a day to celebrate love and happiness with family and friends. He took a deep breath and smiled at his reflection. Nina, in her simple but elegant white dress, was humming softly while arranging her bouquet. Her dress flowed like water, and the sunlight streaming through the window made her glow. She laughed as her younger sister helped with the final touches of her hair. "I can't believe today is finally here," Nina said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The backyard had been transformed into a place of joy. White tents sheltered tables covered with bright cloths, bowls of colorful flowers sat at each corner, and string lights hung from tree branches. The air was filled with the scent of fresh bread and flowers, and the sound of music drifted through the open windows. Children ran across the lawn, laughing as they chased each other with ribbons in their hands. Friends and family mingled, chatting and smiling, sharing stories about the couple. Everything seemed perfect, yet across the street Mrs. Miller watched the scene with suspicion. She was an older woman, known in the neighborhood for her strict views and sharp eyes. Her hair was pulled tightly into a bun, and her glasses reflected the sunlight as she narrowed her eyes. She did not know most of the people coming and going, and their laughter felt loud and intrusive to her. The music, the decorations, and the unfamiliar faces made her uneasy. Her fingers tightened around her phone. After a moment of hesitation, she dialed 911. "Yes, hello," she said firmly when the dispatcher answered. "There's a gathering next door. I'm not sure what is happening, but it looks suspicious. People are coming and going. There are too many strangers. Please send someone." The dispatcher, trained to take every call seriously, asked a few questions, noting the address and the description. Mrs. Miller gave what she thought was enough information, her voice calm but certain. She felt she had done the right thing, protecting her neighborhood from what she assumed could be a problem. Meanwhile, inside the house, Jamal and Nina were unaware of the call. They laughed as they exchanged small gifts. Jamal had given Nina a necklace earlier that morning, and Nina had gifted him a wristwatch, engraved with their wedding date. The couple's happiness was so tangible that even the sunlight seemed to shine brighter in their presence. Guests continued to arrive, each carrying their smiles, flowers, and good wishes. Cousins, friends from work, and distant relatives all gathered to celebrate. Music played softly, creating an atmosphere of warmth and excitement. Jamal's parents chatted with Nina's family, sharing stories of their own weddings decades ago. The backyard was alive with joy, a stark contrast to the unease across the street. As the hours passed, Mrs. Miller continued to watch. She did not move from her porch. She did not wave. She only observed. Every laugh, every cheer, and every clap seemed to confirm her suspicion. "Something is not right here," she whispered to herself. Her mind painted scenarios of disorder and chaos, ignoring the smiles and happiness she could see. Back in the backyard, Jamal and Nina were finishing up the final preparations. The flowers were arranged perfectly, the food was set, and the music was cued for the ceremony. Jamal adjusted his suit one last time and took Nina's hand. "Everything is ready," he said, his voice calm but excited. "Let's go out there and celebrate." Nina nodded, squeezing his hand. "I'm ready," she said, her smile bright. The children ran past, carrying flower petals that would soon be scattered during the ceremony. The guests began to gather under the white tent, talking quietly in anticipation. At that moment, A small commotion caught the attention of a few guests near the gate. Two police cars slowly drove into the street, their lights off but noticeable in the afternoon sun. Officer Dean and his partner stepped out, walking cautiously toward the house. Their expressions were serious, trained to be ready for any situation. Jamal noticed the officers and stepped forward, his own smile steady and welcoming. "Hello," he said warmly. "Can I help you?" Officer Dean looked around, taking in the decorations, the formal clothes, and the happy children running about. He glanced at his partner and whispered, "It seems to be a wedding." Jamal nodded, understanding the situation immediately. "Yes, it's our wedding. We are celebrating with friends and family." His calm presence seemed to ease the tension in the officers. Across the street, Mrs. Miller's eyes widened. She watched the officers approach and thought to herself that her call had caused action. She felt vindicated, certain that the police would take care of the situation. Her phone rested on her lap, her fingers still slightly trembling from the anticipation. Jamal, noticing the officer's hesitation, reached inside his suit jacket. Slowly, he pulled out his badge and held it up. Officer Dean froze. Jamal was not only the groom, he was a police officer, a colleague who served the community just like them. The badge glimmered in the sunlight, a symbol of authority and integrity. Mrs. Miller's face went pale. Her assumptions crumbled as she realized the truth. The man she had suspected was not a stranger causing trouble. He was a protector of the law, a man of respect, and the reason she had even called seemed now entirely misplaced. Jamal smiled politely. "I understand there might have been some concern," he said to the officers. "Everything is fine. We are simply celebrating our wedding today." Officer Dean took a deep breath, nodding. He had expected confrontation, but found none. The situation was a misunderstanding, one that was cleared almost instantly by Jamal's presence and calm explanation. The guests watched quietly, sensing the small drama, but continuing to smile and enjoy the day. Children skipped past the officers, waving and laughing. Friends whispered quietly among themselves, curious about the sudden appearance of law enforcement, but they also noticed Jamal's composed demeanor. Mrs. Miller sat back, her hands slightly shaking. She had expected chaos, but instead saw order, respect, and happiness. Her assumptions were wrong, and she had never felt so embarrassed in her life. She realized that her judgment had been clouded by fear and unfamiliarity, not facts or understanding. Jamal returned to his guests, still smiling, maintaining the warmth of the celebration. He waved at the officers as they prepared to leave, who also waved back, acknowledging that the misunderstanding was resolved. The music continued, laughter filled the air, and the joy of the wedding carried on uninterrupted. Nina, noticing the moment from a distance, squeezed Jamal's hand. "You handled that so gracefully," she whispered. Jamal leaned closer, his eyes reflecting the happiness of the day. "It's our wedding," he said softly. "Nothing will ruin it. Let's focus on love and joy." And so, the backyard of Willow Lane remained a place of happiness, laughter, and celebration. Guests chatted, children played, and the sun continued to shine, unaware of the tension that had briefly passed. Across the street, Mrs. Miller's perspective had shifted. She had learned, in her own small way, that assumptions could be wrong, and that understanding often came from patience and openness. The stage was now set for a wedding that would be remembered, not for a misunderstanding, but for the love and resilience of two people who were determined to enjoy every moment of their special day. After the brief tension at the gate, the wedding continued, but a small ripple of curiosity had passed through the guests. Whispers floated quietly among them, yet the warmth of celebration remained unbroken. Jamal guided Nina to the center of the backyard, where a small wooden arch was decorated with white and yellow flowers. The sunlight streamed through the petals, casting a soft glow over the couple. "Are you ready?" Jamal asked, his voice calm but filled with excitement. Nina nodded, her hands clasped tightly around his. "I have never been more ready for anything in my life," she said, smiling. Her eyes reflected both joy and a little nervousness. The two shared a deep, silent understanding. Today was not just a ceremony. It was a promise to face life together, hand in hand through every challenge. The guests formed two lines along the lawn, leaving a narrow path in the middle. Children still buzzing with energy, perched on benches, their feet swinging as they tried to get the best view. Friends adjusted cameras and phones, trying to capture the special moments without disrupting the flow of the event. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, soft music, and a feeling of togetherness. Across the street, Mrs. Miller continued to watch. She had returned to her porch, her heart still beating a little faster than usual. She was unsure if she should feel relieved or embarrassed. She had called the police out of fear, and now she had seen that her fears were unnecessary. The knowledge made her uneasy. She realized that her assumptions had been unfair, but even as she struggled with her own feelings, she could not look away. The wedding seemed to radiate a sense of joy that was impossible to ignore. Inside the backyard, the ceremony began. Jamal and Nina faced each other under the floral arch. Jamal reached for Nina's hands, feeling the warmth and the softness that had drawn him to her from the very beginning. The officiant, a close family friend, spoke quietly, welcoming everyone and sharing words about love, trust, and partnership. "We gather here today to celebrate a love that is strong, kind, and enduring," the officiant said. "A love that has faced challenges, that has grown with understanding, and that has brought these two together to make a promise for a lifetime." Jamal listened intently, his eyes never leaving Nina's. He thought about the years they had spent together, the small moments of laughter, the late-night conversations, and the unwavering support they had given each other. Today, all of that was coming together in a single perfect moment. Nina squeezed his hands and whispered, "I'm so happy to be here with you." Jamal smiled. "And I'm grateful to be here with you," he replied. His voice was steady, but his heart raced with excitement. As the ceremony continued, the guests watched in quiet admiration. The children tossed flower petals gently onto the grass, creating a soft carpet of color beneath the couple's feet. Friends and relatives nodded and smiled, sharing in the emotion of the moment. The air was filled with music, soft and joyful, complementing the natural beauty of the day. Meanwhile, Mrs. Miller sat across the street, realizing that she had judged too quickly. She saw Jamal standing tall, confident and kind, guiding Nina with care and respect. She saw the joy on Nina's face, the love in her eyes. For the first time, she began to understand that appearances could be deceiving, that fear could cloud judgment, and that understanding came from patience. A neighbor walked past Mrs. Miller's porch, waving at the couple and smiling. She waved back hesitantly, unsure if she should, but something about the wedding softened her expression. She realized that she had been harsh, that she had let suspicion replace compassion. The sounds of laughter, music, and celebration reached her ears, and a small part of her heart felt lighter. Back in the backyard, Jamal continued to speak his vows. "Nina, I promise to stand by you in every moment, to support you, to care for you, and to celebrate every joy with you. I will be honest, loyal, and loving in good times and in bad, for the rest of our lives." Nina's voice was soft but firm as she replied, "Jamal, I promise to love you, to honor you, and to share every dream with you. I will be your partner, your friend, and your family always. Together we will face life with courage, kindness, and joy." The officiant smiled and turned to the guests. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may share your first kiss as a married couple." Jamal leaned forward, taking Nina's face gently in his hands. Their lips met and the backyard erupted in applause. The children clapped and cheered, and the guests' smiles were wide and genuine. The moment was pure, filled with love and celebration. Mrs. Miller's hands were clasped tightly in her lap. She felt a strange mixture of emotions, surprise, admiration, and a little embarrassment. She had never seen such a celebration in her own backyard, and yet she had judged it unfairly. She realized that her assumptions had been based on fear, not reality. Jamal and Nina turned to their guests, waving and smiling. Jamal's presence as a police officer had already left an impression on the officers who had come earlier, but now, the entire community could see him in a different light. He was not only a groom, but a protector, a man of integrity and kindness. His badge had been a reminder that respect and trust were earned through actions, not appearances. After the ceremony, guests moved to the tables, sharing food, laughter, and stories. Children ran around with balloons and the music continued to fill the air. Jamal and Nina moved through the crowd, greeting everyone, hugging family members, and thanking friends for coming. Every smile, every laugh, and every word of congratulations added to the warmth of the day. Mrs. Miller remained seated, observing quietly. She realized that she had learned an important lesson about judgment, understanding, and kindness. She had seen the joy of a community coming together, the beauty of love, and the value of patience. Her heart felt a little lighter, and she knew that she had been reminded of what truly mattered: respect, empathy, and seeing people for who they really were. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the lawn, Jamal and Nina stood together, watching their friends and family enjoy the celebration. Their hands were clasped tightly, a symbol of their promise to each other. The day had started with a small misunderstanding, but it had evolved into something greater, a reminder that love, joy, and understanding could overcome fear and assumption. The officers had returned to their duties, their presence no longer needed, but their respect for Jamal had deepened. The community, too, had witnessed a moment of clarity, a subtle lesson in patience and empathy. Even Mrs. Miller, who had started the day with suspicion, now felt a shift in her heart. She understood that happiness and kindness could not be judged from a distance. As the evening approached, the guests began to prepare for the next part of the celebration. Music played more loudly, and dancing began under the soft glow of string lights. Jamal and Nina led the first dance, their movements synchronized and graceful. Friends and family joined, creating a circle of laughter, joy, and celebration. Across the street, Mrs. Miller continued to watch, but now her expression was softened. She felt a sense of understanding she had not felt before. The wedding was not just a ceremony. It was a display of love, commitment, and the simple beauty of people coming together to celebrate life. She realized that assumptions could be wrong, and that patience and observation could reveal the truth in ways that fear never could. Jamal glanced around at the guests, taking in the smiles and laughter. He felt a sense of pride and happiness. Today was not just a wedding. It was a moment of connection, of love, and of understanding. Every smile, every word, and every gesture added to the magic of the day. Nina leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his embrace. "I am so glad we are here together," she said softly. Jamal kissed her forehead gently. "And I am glad we faced this day together," he replied. "Nothing can take away our happiness." And so, the day continued, filled with music, laughter, and love. The momentary tension had passed, replaced by joy and celebration. The community, the couple, and even those who had doubted now shared in a common understanding that love, kindness, and respect were more powerful than fear, suspicion, or misunderstanding. The first part of the wedding had ended, but the memories created that day would last forever. Jamal and Nina had shown that joy could overcome fear, that patience could overcome judgment, and that love could inspire even the most hesitant hearts to see the beauty in life. The sun was beginning to dip lower in the sky, painting the backyard with shades of orange and gold. Jamal and Nina had just finished their first dance, and the guests were slowly joining in. Laughter and soft conversation filled the air as the couple moved through the crowd, greeting friends and family. Children ran freely on the lawn, chasing one another and squealing with delight. It was a scene of pure happiness. Jamal noticed the small group near the porch where Mrs. Miller sat. She had not left her spot across the street. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her face was calm, but her eyes reflected a mixture of curiosity and embarrassment. Jamal remembered the brief moment earlier when she had called the police. He understood that she might be watching, unsure how to respond to the joy surrounding her. He decided to approach her later with patience and kindness. Inside the tent, the buffet had been set up. Tables were filled with fresh fruits, colorful salads, bread, and warm dishes. Guests lined up, chatting and sharing stories about Jamal and Nina. Some had traveled from neighboring towns, eager to celebrate the union. Plates were filled and passed around, and people found spots under the string lights to enjoy their food. The aroma of the dishes mingled with the scent of flowers, creating a festive atmosphere. Nina moved from table to table, thanking everyone for coming. Her smile was warm and her eyes sparkled with happiness. "I cannot believe everyone came to celebrate with us," she said to her cousin, who had helped organize the decorations. "It feels perfect," her cousin nodded. "Everything is beautiful, The day reflects both of you. Jamal watched Nina interact with the guests. His heart swelled with pride and love. He approached a group of friends who were laughing together and exchanged greetings. "Thank you all for coming," he said. "It means a lot to us." As the evening progressed, Jamal and Nina decided to start a small game for the children. They arranged a scavenger hunt around the backyard, hiding small trinkets and toys among the flowers and bushes. The children squealed with excitement, running from one spot to another searching for the hidden treasures. Parents laughed and joined in, helping the younger ones find the items. The joy was contagious, spreading through the entire gathering. From her porch across the street, Mrs. Miller watched the scene unfold. Her eyes softened as she saw the happiness in the backyard. The music, the laughter, the playful children, everything she had suspected as suspicious was actually a celebration filled with love and community. She felt a little ashamed of her assumptions, realizing that she had judged the situation too quickly. Meanwhile, Jamal excused himself for a moment. He walked toward the street, approaching Mrs. Miller with calm steps. He did not hurry, and his expression was friendly and composed. "Good evening, Mrs. Miller," he called softly. Mrs. Miller looked up, startled. Her hands gripped the edge of the porch railing. She had not expected the groom to approach her personally. "Good evening," she replied, her voice quiet. Jamal smiled gently. "I hope the celebration is not too loud for you," he said. "We're just enjoying a happy moment with our friends and family." Mrs. Miller nodded, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. "I suppose it is my fault," she admitted softly. "I thought something was wrong, but now I see that it is a joyful occasion." Jamal's smile widened. "I understand. It is easy to misinterpret situations from a distance. Today is important to us, and we want everyone to enjoy it safely." Her eyes met his, and for the first time that evening, she felt a genuine connection to the people she had judged. She realized that fear and assumption could create barriers between people, but understanding and patience could break those barriers down. As Jamal returned to the backyard, Nina was waiting with a plate of dessert. "Who was that?" she asked, noticing his calm expression. "Mrs. Miller," Jamal replied. She was watching from her porch. "I thought it would be better to greet her, explain, and show respect." Nina nodded, proud of him. "You handled it well, as always," she said softly. "You make everyone feel safe and respected." The music shifted to a lively tune, and the guests began to dance again. Jamal and Nina joined the circle, their energy lifting the mood even higher. The children continued to play, running around with glowing sticks, giggling as they darted between the legs of the adults. Plates of food were carried to the tables, and laughter filled every corner of the backyard. As night fell, string lights illuminated the space, casting a warm glow over the guests. Jamal noticed a small group of neighbors who had come late, standing quietly at the edge of the lawn. Some were familiar faces, while others were strangers. He greeted them with a nod, and soon they joined the festivities, adding to the feeling of community and togetherness. Mrs. Miller watched silently, reflecting on the events of the day. She had started with fear and suspicion, but now she saw something far more powerful: joy, love, and connection. She realized that assumptions could mislead, and that taking a moment to observe and understand could reveal the truth. The couple decided to hold a small speech session for anyone who wanted to share their blessings. Jamal's older brother stepped forward first. "I have watched Jamal grow into a fine man, a protector, and now a husband. Nina, you bring light into his life. Together, you both show us what love really means." Nina's aunt followed. "Watching you two today reminds me of the importance of family, friends, and community. Your love inspires all of us to be kinder, more patient, and more understanding." The speeches continued, each one heartfelt and sincere. Guests shared memories, laughter, and advice. The couple listened attentively, occasionally wiping tears from their eyes. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and genuine emotion, leaving everyone feeling connected and inspired. As the speeches ended, Jamal took Nina's hand and addressed the guests. "Thank you all for being here, for your love, and for celebrating with us. Today has been more than a wedding. It has been a reminder of the power of community, of patience, and of understanding." The guests applauded, cheering and smiling. The children clapped along and the music resumed. Jamal and Nina led the first line dance, followed by friends and family. The night sky was dotted with stars, and the gentle breeze carried the sounds of laughter and music across the neighborhood. From her porch, Mrs. Miller watched again. This time she did not feel fear or suspicion. Instead, she felt a sense of awe at the scene before her. She realized that the celebration was not only about the couple, but also about the strength of community, the beauty of love, and the importance of seeing people for who they truly were. Jamal noticed her watching briefly and gave a small wave, acknowledging her presence without drawing attention. She hesitated for a moment before nodding in return, understanding that respect and goodwill could replace judgment and doubt. The rest of the evening flowed with joy. Friends played games, children danced, and everyone shared stories around the tables. The backyard was alive with energy, yet calm in its own way, filled with love, laughter, and connection. As the night drew closer, the couple took a moment to stand together, watching the lights and the happy faces surrounding them. Jamal placed his hand gently on Nina's shoulder. "This has been a beautiful day," he said softly. Nina leaned her head against his chest. "And it is only the beginning of our life together," she whispered. "I am grateful for every moment, for every person, and even for the lessons we are learning today." Jamal nodded, understanding the depth of her words. Today had started with small tension and misunderstanding, but it had grown into a celebration of life, love, and community. The joy, patience, and understanding they had shared with everyone present made the day unforgettable. And as the stars sparkled in the night sky, the guests continued to laugh, dance, and share in the happiness of Jamal and Nina. The momentary fear of misunderstanding had vanished, replaced by the brilliance of love, joy, and the knowledge that every person, no matter how different, could share in the same happiness when met with respect and kindness. The first part of the evening had ended, but the celebration of life, love, and understanding was just beginning. Every smile, every gesture, and every word spoken would be remembered, leaving an imprint of warmth and joy on everyone present. The evening had settled into a calm, warm glow. String lights twinkled above the backyard, and the gentle sound of music filled the air. Jamal and Nina had taken a few moments to step away from the crowd, standing at the edge of the garden, holding hands. The day had been full of laughter, a little tension, and overwhelming joy. They shared a quiet smile, feeling the love and support surrounding them. "I can't believe how beautiful everything turned out," Nina said softly, looking around at the lights, flowers, and smiling faces. Jamal nodded, his thumb brushing over her hand. "It has been perfect. Even with the small misunderstanding earlier, it turned into something meaningful. Everyone is happy, and that is what matters." Behind them, the guests continued to celebrate. Friends and family were dancing in small circles, some showing off steps they had practiced for fun, others just swaying to the music. Children ran around with glow sticks in hand, laughing and shouting with excitement. Plates of food were being shared and enjoyed, with conversations flowing freely between tables. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and joy. Across the street, Mrs. Miller was still watching. She had not moved from her porch, yet her thoughts had changed entirely. What had started as suspicion and unease had now shifted to admiration and reflection. She saw the love between Jamal and Nina, the care with which they treated their guests, and the respect everyone showed toward one another. Her hands rested on her lap as she noticed Jamal speaking to some neighbors who had arrived late. He greeted them warmly, shaking hands and smiling. The neighbors' initial hesitation disappeared as they joined in the celebration. Mrs. Miller felt a small pang of guilt for her earlier assumptions, but also a sense of relief that everything was unfolding peacefully. Inside the backyard, Jamal had gathered a few of the younger guests for a simple game. He crouched down to their level, showing them how to toss small beanbags into baskets hidden among the decorations. The children laughed, squealing with delight every time someone made a successful toss. Nina joined, her laughter blending with the children's, creating a melody that was almost magical in its simplicity. Nearby, some of the older guests were taking photos, capturing the smiles, the decorations, and the moments that made the day memorable. Everyone seemed to be in high spirits, sharing stories of Jamal and Nina's relationship, recalling memories, and offering their best wishes. The joy was contagious, spreading across the backyard like sunlight. Jamal noticed Mrs. Miller watching again from her porch. He took a deep breath and walked toward the street, deciding to greet her personally. This time he brought Nina with him, thinking it might be helpful to show that they wanted to share the happiness with everyone. Even those who had doubted them. Good evening, Mrs. Miller, Jamal called softly as they approached the edge of the street. His voice was calm and friendly. Mrs. Miller looked up, startled once more. She had expected him to stay within the celebration, but he had come to her. Good evening, she replied quietly, her voice still hesitant. Nina smiled warmly. Hello, Mrs. Miller, we hope you're enjoying the evening from there, she said gently. Mrs. Miller blinked, not expecting such kindness. I am. I see now that it is a wonderful celebration. I was mistaken before, she admitted, feeling a sense of humility. Jamal nodded. It is easy to misinterpret things from a distance. We just want everyone to share in our happiness today. We hope you can see that the celebration is for joy, love, and community. Mrs. Miller felt her heart soften. She realized that her assumptions had been unfair, and she now understood the beauty of the moment she had only observed from afar. I see that now, she said softly. It is truly beautiful. Nina offered her a small flower from the garden. Would you like one? She asked. It is from the same flowers we used for the ceremony. Mrs. Miller hesitated for a moment before accepting it. She smiled faintly, the gesture touching her in a way she had not expected. Thank you. That is kind, she said quietly. Jamal placed a hand gently on her shoulder. We wanted you to feel included, not separated. Happiness grows when shared, he said. Mrs. Miller nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the string lights above. She had learned a lesson that day, one about kindness, understanding, and the danger of assumptions. She realized that judging someone based on appearances or unfamiliarity could lead to unnecessary fear, but approaching with respect and patience could create connection. As the couple returned to their guests, the celebration continued to grow livelier. Music changed to a faster tune and more people joined the dance. Friends and family clapped along to the rhythm, while the children moved between the dancing adults, laughing and twirling. Plates of food were passed around, and conversations flowed naturally, filled with shared memories and well-wishes. Jamal and Nina made their way to the center of the dance floor, encouraging their guests to join in a group dance. The laughter and joy were so contagious that even neighbors who had been hesitant earlier joined in, their smiles brightening the night. The backyard became a scene of unity, where differences did not matter and only happiness and togetherness were important. Mrs. Miller watched quietly, but she no longer felt like an outsider. She realized that the celebration was not just about Jamal and Nina. It was about love, community, and understanding. She thought about her earlier actions and felt a quiet determination to approach others with more patience in the future. The couple decided to hold a short speech segment, inviting anyone who wanted to share a message or blessing. Jamal's father stepped forward first, his eyes glistening. I have watched Jamal grow into a man of courage, kindness, and integrity, he said. Today, I see him take the first step into a new chapter of life with Nina. Together, they show us that love is powerful, patient, and enduring. Nina's mother followed, speaking softly but firmly. Nina, you bring so much light into Jamal's life. Together, you both remind us of the importance of respect, trust, and shared happiness. May your life together always be filled with joy, understanding, and love. Guests clapped and cheered, some wiping tears from their eyes. The children clapped and cheered as well, their excitement adding to the celebration. Jamal and Nina smiled, overwhelmed by the warmth and love from everyone present. After the speeches, Jamal and Nina moved through the crowd, expressing their gratitude to each guest. They hugged friends, thanked relatives, and shared smiles with neighbors. Even those who had doubted earlier were now smiling, enjoying the celebration, and appreciating the couple's kindness and openness. Mrs. Miller continued to watch from her porch, reflecting on the day. She felt a quiet sense of understanding and admiration. The small moment of fear and misunderstanding had transformed into a lesson about patience, kindness, and respect. She realized that assumptions could be harmful, but empathy and observation could reveal the truth and create connection. The night progressed, with music, dancing, and shared joy. Jamal and Nina led another dance, this time with more energy and excitement. The guests moved together, creating a circle of unity and happiness. Laughter echoed across the backyard, and the glow of the string lights cast a magical light over everyone. Jamal and Nina paused for a moment, holding hands and looking around at their friends, family, and neighbors. This is more than I imagined, Nina said softly. Everyone is so happy. It feels like the world is full of love tonight. Jamal nodded, his eyes scanning the joyful faces. It has been a day of learning as well as celebration, he said. We have seen the power of patience, understanding, and kindness. Today proves that love and respect can overcome fear and misunderstanding. The guests continued to dance and enjoy the night. Plates were refilled, conversations continued, and children played in the soft glow of the lights. The atmosphere was alive with warmth, laughter, and connection. From her porch, Mrs. Miller finally stood and walked toward the gate. She wanted to offer her congratulations in person. When she reached the edge of the yard, she handed a small bouquet of flowers to Nina. "For your happiness," she said softly. Nina accepted it with a bright smile. "Thank you. That is very kind of you," she said. Jamal placed a hand on Nina's shoulder, nodding to Mrs. Miller. "It means a lot," he said sincerely. Mrs. Miller returned to her porch, feeling a sense of peace she had not experienced before. She had learned that judging too quickly could create fear, but kindness, patience, and observation could create understanding and connection. As Jamal and Nina stood together, watching their guests enjoy the evening, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. Their wedding had not only been a celebration of love, but also a reminder of the importance of empathy, understanding, and community. Every smile, every gesture, and every word spoken that night would be remembered forever. The night had fully settled over Elmwood, and the backyard glowed softly with string lights. The music was gentle now, a slower, more romantic rhythm, and the air was warm but comfortable. Jamal and Nina stood together near the center of the yard, holding hands and looking around at the guests. The celebration had been long, full of laughter, dancing, and love, yet there was still a sense of anticipation in the air. Children had started to grow tired, sitting on benches with balloons in their laps, whispering softly to one another. Friends and family continued to chat quietly, savoring the last moments of the evening. Plates of food had been cleared, and the gentle hum of conversation filled the space. Everyone seemed content, their smiles reflecting the love they had shared throughout the day. Jamal and Nina took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the night and the love surrounding them. "I can't believe the day went by so fast," Nina whispered, leaning into Jamal. Jamal smiled. "It has been perfect, more than I ever imagined. I feel so lucky to share it with you and everyone here." Across the street, Mrs. Miller still watched, though her perspective had completely changed. What had begun as suspicion and fear had transformed into admiration and understanding. She had observed the love, respect, and kindness displayed throughout the evening, and it had left a lasting impression on her. She had learned that assumptions could be misleading and that patience, observation, and kindness could reveal the true character of people. The couple decided it was time for a final activity before the evening ended. Jamal clapped his hands gently, drawing the attention of the guests. "We have one last surprise," he said warmly. "It is something for everyone to enjoy together." Nina joined him, smiling at the guests. "We wanted to end the evening by sharing a small tradition from our families. It is simple but meaningful, and we hope everyone participates." The guests looked curious, some whispering to each other, others smiling in anticipation. Children brightened at the word surprise, and parents adjusted their seats to see better. Jamal and Nina handed small paper lanterns to everyone, explaining that they would release them together as a symbol of hope, happiness, and shared dreams. The guests followed instructions, holding the lanterns carefully. Jamal guided Nina to the center, standing beneath the twinkling lights. He held her hand and their eyes met, reflecting a mixture of excitement, pride, and love. Mrs. Miller watched from her porch, feeling a sense of wonder. The lanterns would rise together, illuminating the night sky. She realized that this simple act was a perfect reflection of the day itself, moments of connection, shared joy, and understanding that transcended fear or judgment. Jamal counted down softly. 3, 2, 1. The guests released the lanterns, and one by one they floated upward, their soft glow reflecting in the eyes of everyone below. Children clapped, adults smiled, and laughter filled the air as the lanterns drifted higher, carrying hopes and dreams into the night. Jamal and Nina watched in awe, feeling a deep sense of contentment. As the lanterns disappeared into the sky, Jamal turned to Nina. "This day will stay with us forever," he said, his voice gentle. Every moment, every smile, every act of kindness, it all matters. Nina nodded. And it is not just about us, she said. It is about everyone here, about the love and understanding we share with each other, even with those who might have doubted at first. Mrs. Miller finally walked across the street, holding a small bouquet of flowers. She approached Nina and Jamal carefully, unsure of how to express her feelings. "For your happiness," she said softly, extending the bouquet. "I wanted to come and offer my congratulations in person." Nina accepted the flowers with a bright smile. "Thank you. That is very thoughtful of you," she said. Jamal nodded, his expression warm. "It means a lot. Your presence tonight is appreciated," he said sincerely. Mrs. Miller felt a sense of peace she had never expected. She realized that the earlier misunderstanding, the fear and suspicion, had led to a moment of learning for her. She had been reminded that people are not always as they appear, and that patience, observation, and empathy could change hearts. The couple guided Mrs. Miller to a bench near the edge of the yard. They offered her a seat, making her feel included in the celebration rather than separated from it. She accepted quietly, feeling a subtle shift in her understanding of community, kindness, and love. The night continued with soft music, quiet conversation, and the gentle hum of happiness. Guests lingered, savoring the last moments together, capturing photographs and sharing stories. Jamal and Nina moved among them, expressing gratitude, listening to memories, and joining in the laughter. Children finally began to drift off to sleep in the arms of parents or on the benches, their energy spent but their joy evident. The older guests continued to converse, sharing reflections about the day and offering blessings for the couple's future. The atmosphere remained warm and connected, a perfect reflection of the couple's love and values. As the night drew to a close, Jamal and Nina stood together in the center of the backyard, holding hands and gazing at the string lights above. "It has been more than a wedding," Nina said softly. "It has been a lesson in understanding, kindness, and community. I am so grateful." Jamal squeezed her hand gently. "We have seen that even fear or misunderstanding can turn into something positive if we approach it with patience and respect. Today has shown us how important it is to value every person and every moment." Mrs. Miller watched silently from her seat, feeling a quiet gratitude. She had learned something important about herself and the way she viewed others. She understood now that assumptions could be harmful, but a simple act of kindness or a patient approach could create connection and understanding. The couple decided to end the evening with a final dance, just the two of them in the soft glow of the string lights. Guests quietly moved back to give them space, watching in admiration as Jamal and Nina swayed together. Their movements were natural, filled with love and trust, a symbol of the life they would build together. As the dance ended, Jamal placed his hand gently on Nina's shoulder. "This day will stay with us forever," he said. Not because of the challenges or the small moments of fear, but because of the love, joy, and understanding we shared with everyone. Nina rested her head on his shoulder. "I know," she said softly, "and it will guide us in the days to come, reminding us to approach life with patience, empathy, and love." The guests began to leave, some offering final hugs and blessings, others promising to return soon for future celebrations. Jamal and Nina waved, their hearts full. Even Mrs. Miller finally returned to her porch, smiling quietly to herself, feeling a sense of closure and reflection. The night was calm now. The lanterns had disappeared into the sky, leaving only their memory behind. The couple held hands, looking at the empty yard with contentment. They had faced a small misunderstanding earlier in the day, but it had turned into a moment of connection and learning for everyone present. Jamal smiled at Nina. "This is the beginning of our life together," he said. "We have started with love, joy, and lessons that will guide us forever." Nina nodded, holding his hand tightly. "And we will continue to face life together with kindness, patience, and understanding. Today is only the beginning." The backyard of Willow Lane grew quiet, the music fading into the night. The lights glowed softly, reflecting the joy, love, and community that had filled the day. Guests had left with hearts full of warmth, and Mrs. Miller had learned the power of patience, understanding, and seeing people for who they truly were. Jamal and Nina stood together one last time, looking at the stars above. The night was clear, calm, and full of possibilities. They knew that the memories of this day would remain with them forever, a reminder that love and understanding could overcome fear and assumptions. And as the small town of Elmwood settled into the quiet of the night, one thing was certain: a wedding that began with laughter, joy, and even a little tension had ended with connection, respect, and a lasting lesson for everyone involved. The night belonged to love, to learning, and to the beginning of a new life together, filled with hope, happiness, and understanding.